Fresh out of prison story, y'all. Y'all won't believe this shit. My homeboy just got out of prison March 1st, and the shit he told me, y'all, I couldn't even believe it, y'all. This shit crazy. So let's start from the beginning. Lil homie was out on probation. He was serving like 5-year probation. He already did most of it, so he had like 2 years of probation left. But then he got caught up in some shit. And long story short, he went to court and all that. And you know how the judges, they want to make an example out of you and shit. So they made him, luckily, he was looking at 8 years, but luckily he made it to that 2 years. That's what he had to do. Plus, he had like time served and stuff. So when I tell you, never been to prison, jail, he been to jail a couple of times, but never been to prison ever. So he thought, oh, it's gonna be a walk in the park. It's gonna be like jail, basically. They got bars, they got a bed you sleep in, they tell you what to do, when to piss and shit. Same thing, right? So when I tell you, totally different. Totally different. Like the shit that goes on in prison, y'all, it's ridiculous. I'm talking about from the violence, from the sex, from the drugs, from the just all that shit, fighting and shit, y'all. It was ridiculous, motherfucking ridiculous, and it's even ridiculous going into there being DL. You know what I'm saying? Being DL, like some people know your secret out there, but you don't want it to get in there and shit. So long story short, he went in there and shit. The first day, he stayed in his cell. He stayed in his cell, stayed to himself. And then here came some dudes and shit. They was like, oh, what's up? My name is so and so. He was like, nah, I'm good. He ain't trying to introduce himself. He ain't trying to fuck with nobody and shit. So they took it as, all right, you being funny and shit. So they tried to start some shit. They tried to fight him. They tried to get him in shit. Like, and the little nigga had it rough, y'all. When I tell you, he had it like rough. And not only that, but it's like, what can you do? You got 2 years. You got to make the best of it and shit. So, one person came out. He was like, hey, I know it's rough in here. I know you just got, like, he was trying to be a friend, but he was like, I don't want no friends. I'm trying to stay to myself and shit, like that. So even a little homie thought, okay, you think you stuck up, right? You think you hard and shit. You think that, you the shit, basically. Steady yourself, not fucking nobody. You think you all that and shit. So he had like 3 or 4 fights and shit and whatever. Won most of them, lost maybe like 2 or 3, but won most of them and shit. Then it came like, shower time. He was like, I don't want to shower with all these motherfuckers and shit. But then you got to, because it's certain times when you can shower, it's certain times you can eat, it's certain times you can go out there, play on the field and shit. It's certain times. So you gotta go when you gotta go. You know what I'm saying? Because you might not get that opportunity when you want it. You know what I'm saying? So you gotta go. You gotta wake up early. You gotta eat your food. Like, the shit is totally different than jail. You know what I'm saying? It's totally fucking different. And not only that, especially when COVID hit, it made it even worse because they locked everybody in a cell. They was feeding them old food and shit. It was just real crazy type. And then not only that, but you got, niggas trying to fight you every single day. You got niggas trying to stab you. You got niggas trying to like lie on your name, get you in the shit. You got all types of shit happening. And then you got niggas trying to fuck you. You got niggas trying to set you up. You got all types of shit. Like, he told me one day, he was like in his cell, and this dude came along. He was like, oh, where you from? Asking questions and shit. Then he was like, you mess around. And then my homie was like, he do out here in the real world, but in there he was like, fuck that, I ain't doing none of shit. So he lied and said nah and shit. And the dude kept pushing him. And the dude was like, if we do, it'll be on a low low. So it took my friend about like maybe like 5 weeks and shit to like wrap his head around how shit working here. It's better to be cordial than to be an enemy. You know what I'm saying? Because when you an enemy, anything can happen. Anything can play off in there and shit. And what can you do? Like, what can you do? You can be beat up, you can be shanked, you can be raped, you can be anything and shit. What can you really do? So it's I'd rather be a friend than to be an enemy and have everybody after me. So, long story short, he was playing dominoes. He started opening up a little bit, playing cards and shit. And then word got around that, somebody lied and said, they messed around with him and shit. So then you got multiple people coming to him being like, oh, so you play that way and shit like that. And here you are thinking, oh, they about to fight, whatever. But really, they trying to mess around too. I don't know what it is about when you first go to jail and shit. You got some people in there that see you as meat, basically. Like, oh, let me mess around with him, like that. Let me get him first and shit. I don't know what it is in there. I don't understand it, but it's crazy, y'all. The shit is really crazy that happens in that shit. And then the guards, they don't give a fuck. They figure shit, you a caged animal. All we supposed to do is feed you, make sure you ain't dead, and we did our motherfucking job. You know what I'm saying? So it's crazy in there and shit. And that's why I tell people, you know, y'all need to really think about that shit. When y'all get ready to do crime and shit and do what y'all do and shit, think about how life could change. Do you really want to go to sleep with one eye open, worried about if this is your time you're gonna die, this is your time when somebody gonna come in there and try to do something to you? Like, or would you rather be out here struggling? But I don't know. And then he told me too, he said he used to think, when niggas go to jail and bitches go to jail, they don't want to go. But then he found out sometimes people keep going back to jail because that's where they really want to be at. You know what I'm saying? You get free food, free meals, you get to fuck who you want, you get to do the drugs you want, you get to just do whatever you want, basically. You ain't got to pay bills. You ain't got to worry about being on the street. You got a bed, you got a blanket, you got food. It's stupid, but that's the real life. Some people can't take it out in the real world, so they rather be out there, and be told when to shit, when to piss, when to comb your hair, when to spit, basically. And it's stupid. It's stupid. It really is. Then not only that, but then when you get out here and time has passed you by, everything you thought you was, doing before you went in, you ain't doing no more. Like Corona done really did a lot. You know what I'm saying? She never that bitch done did a real lot of shit. So what you knew before, now you gotta learn something new, like masks. You gotta wear masks and shit. And even though, the mask has been lifted, the mask mandate has been lifted, people still wear masks. People still cautious. You got stores that won't even let you in without a mask. Like, it's shit done changed in here. We're in prison. Basically, it's like the same day. You wake up, you eat, you shit, you piss. Do it all over again. And it's real crazy, but that's how it is in there. And then he said, in there, he messed around in there. He did. He messed around in there and shit. And, it was crazy because the people you would never think that would bottom, which means taking dick or give dick, whatever. They are like the hard niggas and shit to be in there and shit. Niggas with wives, with girlfriends and shit. You would never think, out here in the real world, but in there, they doing the shit. And basically, I guess it's like free game in there and shit, like free game and shit. And you got people serving 20 years, 13 years, even 40 years, 50 years. They're not about to wait. They're not about to wait on you and shit. They doing what they doing shit. And he was telling me, one of the dudes that he was fucking with, whatever, he was giving visitation by his girl. He told the girl he loved him. He told the girl all the sweet shit he was telling his girlfriend. And then when it came to go back to cell, shit, You fucking with my homeboy. And she don't even know. Whatever. But then do you really know what she doing out there? Do you really know? I mean, you don't. All you can do is say, she loyal. But then do you really know? Do you really know? You know, a word of mouth could say anything and shit. But, it's crazy because the boy not only was fucking my friend in there, but he was fucking other people out here, whatever. But his girl, I guess, I don't know. The dude told my friend his girl knew about it, but then again, I don't know because you got some girls that know, some girls that rather they dudes to fuck with another dude instead of fucking with bitches and shit. I know because I used to be DL and shit, so I know. But it's crazy how prison life really works. And then what got me too is when he was about to be released. He said when he was about to be released and shit, people was getting jealous, people was hating and shit, people was trying to fight him, people was trying to get him in shit. Like I guess it's so he wouldn't leave. Maybe I guess because once you get ready to leave, if you get in any more trouble, it kind of fucks your chances up. I guess that's how it works. I don't know, but my homeboy was leaving and shit because he served his time. He was ready to leave and all that shit. And they was trying to fight him. Real shit. They was trying to fight him. They was trying to start shit with him. They was trying to do all that shit. Like get him in so much trouble. Like it was ridiculous. But luckily he kept the faith and luckily he got out okay. But they was hating. You hear me? They was hating. And which is sad because at the end of the day you gotta get out too. And you wouldn't want nobody hating on you. But it's ridiculous. But yeah, y'all, the shit is ridiculous. So, this is part one. My homeboy just got out of prison. Very first time in there. Part two coming up next. I love y'all. Please like, comment, subscribe, share, and follow all on my social medias. I love y'all.